Welcome, everybody. It is Mike Ayalon. I am CEO of Greek University, and we are now on episode number 58 of Fraternity Foodie. We call these segments Fraternity Foodie because there is nothing like good food to bring people together. I am pumped about this interview today because we have a young professional with us that has worked for some of the biggest and best companies out there. And I really wanted him to share with our audience how he's been able to build such a successful career in a short amount of time and find out what tips he can share with college students, with recent graduates, and even new professionals on how to achieve that level of success. This particular young professional has worked for JP Morgan Chase. He's worked for Google. He's worked for WeWork. Now he's working for the most popular app on the planet, TikTok, in global talent acquisition. And I just have to say, I have my renegade dance and I have my savage dance routine ready just in case you're hiring professional dancers. In his spare time, he's a diehard Florida State Seminole fan. He's a concert goer and he's a TV binge watcher. Welcome to the show, Harry Stone.
Thank you. Thank you. What a great introduction.
I worked hard, as you can see, on that introduction. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm so glad to introduce you to our audience. So Harry, I see that you have your bachelor's degree in finance and also entrepreneurship from Florida State. So what made you choose Florida State for your undergraduate experience?
Yeah, I grew up in South Florida, and Florida State in Tallahassee was the furthest away from home, but still with staying in state. After going on college tours and just checking out campuses, going to Florida State really felt like home. It was a welcoming environment. There was so much school pride, and I was looking for a place that had a ton of tradition. Also great sports teams and a big social aspect of the college life there. So that's the reason why I ended up deciding to go to Florida State.
I love it. Incredible school. The other interesting thing about you is that you were a founding father at Florida State Sigma Pi. So what attracted you to being a founding father and being a part of that kind of an experience?
Yeah, so for me, I was someone who was always actively involved in high school and ended up being the junior and senior class president of my school. And in going to being the big man on campus in a high school to then a small fish in a big pond in college, I realized there was many other people just like me. And I wanted to find a home and a community within, the greater college environment. And so being able to start something from scratch, thinking about what that would mean bringing a fraternity back onto campus, thinking about that from more of like a startup environment within the organization was really interesting to me and something that I definitely was passionate about at the time and really intriguing to do so.
I love it. And, I definitely think there's a correlation between founding fathers and being really successful in your career. There's something about that experience of building something from scratch while you're in college that translates to huge success when you get out on the other side. So it really doesn't surprise me, to be honest, to see that you're successful because you know what it takes, what kind of hard work it takes to build something from nothing.
Totally.
Right? Yeah. So after graduation at Florida State, you went into the mortgage business. And at this point, you're working with Wells Fargo and JP Morgan Chase. So what led you from Florida State into the mortgage business?
Yeah, I had no interest of ever going into real estate myself. I took maybe one real estate class in college, so I was really shocked that that's the route that I went. But I also graduated at the end of the financial crisis, which took place in 2008. I graduated in 2010, and the job opportunities were fairly limited. I would say it's similar to how it is right now. The best opportunity and offer that I got was to move to Jacksonville, Florida, which I had only been one other time in my life, and ended up going there and taking a role with Wells Fargo. On the mortgage side, working with people that were in foreclosure and bankruptcy, so understanding that aspect of things. And luckily, about a year into my position, there was a college program that got launched at JP Morgan Chase. And so they were looking for people that wanted to become mortgage underwriters, which was the next step in my career at the time. And so I was able to move from one organization over to another bank, and was able to move my career up one level and also be part of another college environment too.
That's very cool. Now, eventually, you moved into recruiting at JP Morgan. So, how was this role in recruiting different? And what made you ultimately decide that this is going to be your calling in life?
Yeah, I really loved underwriting. It was a numbers driven, fast paced environment, very competitive, similar to a sales environment. Um, but I was making decisions on people's lives and was unable to speak to those individuals due to regulations that were in place. And I'm a people person. I would say more extroverted than introverted. And so to me, there was a time where I was doing some self-reflection and understanding, if I want to continue to build my career, I want to move over to more of the people side of the business. And so I reached out to the HR sponsor of my program, and through speaking with her and getting to understand who her network was, I was able to job shadow and just understand what the different career paths could be within HR, and was able to really find a home within recruitment. And at the time had moved from Jacksonville, Florida up to New York internally, moving within the different functions, and was able to land myself in a recruitment position up here working on our corporate functions team.
Very cool. Okay. And then eventually you went on to work for Google. And so many people I know have questions about the Google interview process, what working for Google is like. So, can you tell our audience about these two aspects? I mean, talk to us about your Google interview. Was there anything odd or peculiar about that process? And what was it like to work for Google at that time?
Yeah, I actually went there because one of my colleagues at JP Morgan had moved over and referred me, and the team was growing exponentially at the time. The interview process, I won't be able to tell you the secrets of the process, but there are some videos and documents that are online that really go through everything. What I will share is that you will have a recruiter that will prepare you and walk you through what that means. There's different attributes that the organization thinks about, whether that's from having role related knowledge or thinking about your general cognitive ability, how you problem solve. It could be something along the lines of your leadership skills, or even thinking about what type of culture add you are to the organization. Those are all the topics that are discussed, but each one of those breaks down. And then there's pretty tough questions that the interviewer will go into throughout the interview process. If you're in coding or a technology role, you also have to do some coding assignments. So just depending on the position will depend on what's required of your role. As far as the actual interview goes and how it takes place, for me, I actually thought it was really hard and that I didn't do well. And there are many people there, you leave and you're like, I completely bombed that, just because it's different than anything you've really experienced. And it's to challenge you and understand, how do you think about problems? What kind of solutions are you bringing to the table? What data points are you pulling from that information? And how can you help change others' minds and opinions based on what data sets that you have in place? So I think it's a really thought-provoking interview process. As far as actually working there, I would say yes. Everyone is obsessed with it. So part of working there, you're dealing with everyone on the outside world, just constantly asking you about it and saying like, "Oh, meet my friend Harry. He's a Googler and he does this." So you might get a little bit annoyed of some of that, but there's tons of cool perks and opportunities. I would say it's very global, which is exciting. There's teams that are just being created left and right for new products. And one thing that I really enjoyed there was just the team aspect of being able to work together with others, whether that's across the US or globally, thinking about how we can help solve problems and build out teams within our recruiting work we were doing. So I think that's really important. The other thing I would say is, there's a ton of initiative that needs to take place. It's an ambiguous organization. It's been around for 20 years. And so there's just so much to do and so much to just figure out on the fly. And that's something that type of environment works for some people and it really doesn't work for others. And so if you like structure and like doing the same thing every single day, then that's not going to be the place for you. And so that's something that I had to understand for myself was, coming from banking into Google, like, was this for me? Was I the right fit for the organization? Was it working out? And so those are all the things that you'll have to think through if you do land a job there and be able to understand what works for you.
That gives us a really good understanding, I think, of the interview process and what it would be like to work there. I think so many people aspire to work for Google, but they might not exactly know some of the things that you're talking about and what's really involved with it. So I think that's really helpful for all of our listeners. Your latest position is Global Talent Acquisition for TikTok. Now, this app is absolutely blowing up right now. I mean, everybody's downloading this app, everybody's creating content on this app. So, what makes TikTok as an organization so special to you?
Yeah, so TikTok to me, just as a product, is special to me because it sparks joy and also creativity. That's what the organization's motto is. And so you're thinking about our times right now where here in New York, we're still stuck in quarantine and we're still, inside. It's a great platform where you can really have an outlet and be able to create information that's going to be shared globally with other users. And so that's something that is important to me. Also, TikTok does have a parent company, ByteDance, which they have a number of different products and apps. And so thinking about what the diversified platforms look like, I think that's something that's exciting too. It's also fairly new, started around like 2012. And so the growth opportunities are just endless. Our app has just really taken off globally, and that's something that really excites me as far as what the work is that we have to get done. And also, my role right now is really working across the world, helping to build out teams across Europe and Asia and different parts of the US. So, thinking about what that looks like on a global scale and getting to really kind of partner and work with other individuals from international backgrounds.
Wow, this sounds like an amazing experience for you. I tell you what, man, I mean, I'm jealous for the experience that you've had at such a young age because you've really been able to see some incredible companies and get an inside look into what makes them work or what makes them tick. Pardon the pun on TikTok. But so, what advice do you have for recent graduates who are looking for work now? Because you know that this job market is really, really difficult. So, are there places where recent graduates can go to find new opportunities right now?
Yeah, so the way the way talent acquisition is divided up across companies, there is a campus recruiting team and there's experienced hire teams. I personally have never worked in campus recruiting, so as far as for recent grads thinking about their first opportunities, I am probably not the most knowledgeable person, but I would say for myself at the time when I was looking for roles, the first two opportunities I actually got were through the Career Center at Florida State. And so I utilized the resources that I had with the school to think about, are these opportunities that I can apply for? Do I have the transferable skills that can help land me that position? And thinking about that. The other thing to keep in mind, like myself, I moved to a place I had gone visited once. It actually wasn't a place I wanted to live in, truthfully, and ended up living there for 4 years. And sometimes you just have to take positions and opportunities where you can get your foot in the door, and then you can take that and then move it to somewhere else. Like I wanted to move to New York, so I took the opportunity to then move internally and transfer locations. I think that's a big thing that people just totally miss the mark on, just really focusing on 1 to 2, major hubs of cities that they want to be in and not thinking about where are the opportunities that I can, just get in and start fresh and then move somewhere else later on down the road. And the other thing I would say is networking is key. I can't tell you enough how important networking is. All of my positions, I would say outside of the ones I applied through Florida State, have been through networking, just colleagues and contacts and peers. And it's important to continue to build your inner circle and understanding who else knows somebody else and how can that experience or opportunity that somebody else might be working on, how can you partner with them? Where can you like pick up, a internship or thinking about, an apprenticeship or something where you can donate your time to gain the skills you need to then land the opportunity that you really want.
I love that you're talking about networking because I feel like college students really don't think about it until when they actually need a job. And that's probably the worst time to start networking. You should have been networking all along. And places like LinkedIn, for example, which is where we met and started having a conversation, I think it's so important to have a presence there and to start sharing your knowledge on platforms like LinkedIn. So that way you build yourself up as a professional in the area that you're looking to go.
Exactly. And I, as a recruiter, have only up until right now have used LinkedIn really for work purposes or just my like personal connections. But recently I haven't really taken it on to understand that, you have a voice that can be powerful. There could be hundreds of thousands of people reviewing one post or, just inspiring other people and through a platform where you may not even get to know each other or people you can just reach out to. And if someone's open to talking and picking up the phone, like I have two conversations tomorrow, I have this one of just people had reached out and just have to see what happens. And you never know who knows somebody else, like I said, and networking can be the foundation of all of that.
I 100% agree. And I even stumbled upon an article that you recently wrote on LinkedIn. And I'm like, this guy, Harry, is everywhere. And people don't realize how strong that platform can be if you really showcase your skills in an article on LinkedIn. And then that gets widely shared, right?
Exactly. And I will say I'm not a writer at all, but I put some words on paper and I asked a few friends to edit it and there it went. And you just never know who's going to read that and what that's going to do for somebody else.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, what tips do you have for the interviewing process? Because a lot of students and young professionals are interviewing right now, and most of these interviews are happening on video conference, things like Zoom that we're in right now. So, what tips do you have for that interviewing process?
Yes, I actually just went through it myself. So I was at WeWork, my role was eliminated, and I spent the last 2 months interviewing in quarantine at home. So I really understand and feel the pain of interviewing through a video camera, and it's not easy. You will have to find things that will pep you up, and if that means grabbing your favorite mug or whatever it may be to spark some excitement, that's what you got to do. I would say as far as that goes, be patient. Some of these you know teams are really also trying to figure out, are these roles we really need, are they positions we need to fill right now, are these going to get canceled, do these locations need to stay. There's a lot of things happening on the business side of things, and so as an interviewer sometimes you just want to be impatient and you want everything to happen right now immediately. I would say that's one of the main things. The other thing is, find a background. I mean, this is my personal background, but like put something up, find something where like you can have, if you only have your room in your dorm, like find something where it creates a professional environment besides dressing for the part as well. I would say, with the video conferencing too, it's something where you may not get the body language or understand how you're performing or some of those aspects of things. So really, come prepared, do your research on the organization, get your questions down, and be able to have that open dialogue, and try to crack jokes or whatever else that you can lighten the mood. Because I will say that's what helped me out as well, adding the personal side. Since you can't meet people in person, it's good to bring that into a video interview as well.
I agree completely. I mean, we all need a little humor and a little pick me up right now. All of us are
Yeah.
in quarantine and it's like it's depressing. I mean, if we're honest. And so
Yeah,
anytime you can crack a joke and make somebody else smile, it's like you've done your job that day, right?
it's true. Yeah. And the other thing, just have your technology prepared. If your I had an old computer, and the first time I was interviewing, I put Zoom on and it crashed my computer, and I immediately had to buy a new one. So check your technology out and just make sure it works.
That's right. Do a test or something. All right. That's good. So let's say somebody wants to work for their dream company. Somebody out there listening right now, they want to work for Google or they want to work for TikTok or something like that. How can this person increase their odds of getting hired at their dream company?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, I forget the statistics, like the numbers behind it, but X amount of people at Google get hired because they're referred in, and X amount of people, wherever else are also getting hired because they're referred in. In these larger, I would say the tech organizations being a referral is big, and it gives you a step up. Your application is definitely reviewed. It doesn't go into necessarily a black hole of sorts. So like thinking about that, that's a big thing. If you don't know somebody that works there, which can totally be the case, and if you did an intern somewhere like that, think about what are the roles that you want to work in, who does those like who's working in that field right now. Reach out to some individuals that may have come from your college, that may have come from your hometown, or just someone that works there. I would say I get reached out to all the time because I'm a recruiter. That's not necessarily always the best place to go. If you talk to people that are doing the job that you want to do, then you could learn and understand what are the skills that I need to obtain in order to get that position. And then you could be seen by a recruiter and move into a process that way. I think that's even more important. LinkedIn is a great platform where you can reach out to individuals that are at the company. So try to find those positions that are open to recent graduates that um, you also have the skill sets for, but that it also interests you too.
I love that. And I think also you can follow people on social media. It could be Twitter, it could be Facebook, it could be LinkedIn, but you can kind of get an insight into what the company is going through by following somebody who is doing the job that you want to do in that particular company. And then maybe engage in a conversation about how you can provide value with the problem or the issue that they're bringing to social media, right?
Exactly. Yep. And even you don't have to like dream as big as some of these names of places I've worked in. Even if it's a small startup, if it's a family run business, if it's anything, like you could in smaller companies you can wear a lot of hats, whereas at a large company you're wearing one. And so if you think about what you can learn, the amount of information you can gain from a smaller organization and company is probably going to be a lot more than what you can gain at a larger company at times. So I would try to weigh those options too.
I think that's a great point. I think, my life as a serial entrepreneur is really because I've worked for other entrepreneurs and I watched how they built small companies. And when you're working for a small company, you get to have experience doing a lot of different things, wearing a lot of different hats. And ultimately, that's what prepared me to build my own business. If it wasn't for that experience, I would have no idea how to do some of these other functions that I was not trained to do in college, clearly. So that worked out well for me. So I really like that point. That's good. All right. Well, very good. So I'm a huge fan of New York City, which is where you're at right now. I was actually born in Mount Sinai Hospital right there in Manhattan. And I've spent many years working in Manhattan. So we love good food. And I know New York City is like the hub of, it's like the mecca of good food. So what is your favorite restaurant in New York City? What are you going to order these days?
Yeah, I will say when I moved here, I definitely gained the freshman 15 over and over again. So luckily, I've kind of shed those pounds. But I'm a big pizza lover, of course, living in New York. This past weekend for Memorial Day, I went to Simone Gardens, which is one of the best pizza spots. I don't need anything too fancy. Just having some cheese pizza is all that I need. So that's one of my favorite places here in the city, and it's just there's a lot of great food restaurants. So I'm called a human Yelp by some of my friends or coworkers. So I'm always exploring and trying to find stuff, but some of the local like main locations like Simone are just my favorite.
Yeah, the pizza is definitely a go-to in New York and New Jersey. You know, I live in Nashville, Tennessee now, which is a great city. But, you know, anywhere you go in the country that's not called New York or New Jersey, they say that it's pizza. It is nothing like the pizza in New York City. I'm sorry. It's just
Yeah.
it's an imitation. You know, it's not the real deal, and I can taste it immediately and I'm like, "Nope, that's not New York City pizza."
So true.
It's so true. It's so true. And I miss it. That and the bagels too, because the
Yeah.
bagels are just on point. And I'm telling you, a good egg bagel sandwich right now sounds amazing. And I can't get it here. And it's
Yeah.
horrible.
I'll mail you one, but it may be stale by the time it gets there.
It probably will. Listen, I really appreciate the time that you spent with us today. What's the best way for people to connect with you if they have any additional questions to ask? Is there a way they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I would say to just find me on LinkedIn, Harry Stone. My title is Global Talent Acquisition at TikTok, so you can find me there. Would love to stay in contact there. I share a ton of content, or recently have been, which is tips, resources, information. I'm going to continue to do that, and I'll also be sharing different roles and opportunities on there as well. So check it out, take a look, add me. I will get back to you and definitely add you back.
I love it. Harry, thank you so much. This has been great for college students, for recent grads, even for new professionals to figure out how they can get their foot in the door. And I think you've really shed some light on how to do that at some of the best companies in the world. So I just want to say congratulations on all your success. I've been a huge fan of yours for a long time, you know, because I've been sending you messages for a while now.
Yes.
I'm persistent. And I just want to appreciate you. Just thank you for taking the time out today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners. If you found value in Harry's conversation today on how to get your foot in the door at some of the best companies in the country, share this or forward it to a friend or whatever. Just post it on social media. We want to make sure that Harry's message gets out to the masses. So thank you so much for being here today. And we'll see you on the next episode of Fraternity Foodie. Bye for now.